What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Kansas City Chiefs defense. As everyone knows, the Chiefs defense has not gotten off to a great start through the first 3 weeks of the season. As it stands right now, the Kansas City Chiefs pass defense ranks 23rd in the NFL, and their rush defense ranks 31st in the NFL. That equals out to the Chiefs ranking 30th overall in total defense. Obviously, that's a huge problem, and the main reason the Chiefs are 1-2 right now. Now look, I understand their offense turned the ball over 4 times against the Los Angeles Chargers, and that didn't help. I realized they turned the ball over 2 times against the Baltimore Ravens, and that didn't help. But at the same time, if the defense was just average or a little bit below average in those games, I think the Chiefs also win. The problem is their offense is being relied on so much that if the defense messes up or just continues to be horrible, then the offense has a razor thin margin for error. And personally, I feel like this team needs to find ways to win games besides just going, Patrick Mahomes, please save us at the end of every game. Again, I know they turn the ball over a lot, which does not help, but even going back to last year, when the Chiefs didn't really have a turnover problem like the second half of 2020, it was just that they played lackluster football all around, and a lot of games came down to the wire when they really shouldn't have. But I'm going off on a different tangent. Point is, the defense hasn't been great, and if this team really has Super Bowl aspirations, the defense has to be better. I just don't see the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl if their defense hangs around the bottom 5 in the league. I mean, that's just, you're asking a whole lot. That being said, I think there's a few personnel decisions that the Chiefs could make on the defensive side of the ball to improve their defense. Even though I think the Chiefs' defensive issues go a lot deeper than just personnel and talent, I do have a few suggestions. In fact, I have 4 specific ones that I would like to share with you guys that I would like to see in hopes maybe that the defense becomes a little bit better. There are a lot of guys on this defense that I think are either on the decline or their expiration date has passed, and yet they're still on the field for the Chiefs when they really shouldn't be for a significant amount of snaps. Or I feel like the Chiefs are playing the worst player at a lot of positions when they have a better option. So, without further ado, here are 4 personnel decisions I would like the Chiefs to make on defense. The first and most obvious one, in my opinion, is playing Juan Thornhill over Dan Sorensen. This is one that we've been complaining about since the beginning of the season. When Tyrann Mathieu was out in the first game of the year against the Cleveland Browns, the Chiefs played Juan Thornhill for a lot of snaps out there with Dan Sorensen, and he looked really good. He looked healthy. He looked a lot like rookie year Juan Thornhill. He had a couple miscues at the beginning, but then as he started to shake a lot of the rust off and start playing more, he made some big plays. He forced the Nick Chubb fumble that gave the Chiefs the ball, and he also knocked the ball out of Anthony Schwartz's hands late in the game that helped the Chiefs win. But then after Tyrann Mathieu returned to the lineup in Week 2 and in Week 3, he started taking the field with Dan Sorensen, who has been playing 90% or more of the team's defensive snaps in those 2 games. And this just doesn't make sense because Dan Sorensen has been one of the worst starting safeties in the league to this point. And Juan Thornhill, we all know, has extreme athletic ability. We're almost 2 years removed from when he first tore his ACL. And I kind of feel like that excuse now is just, it's a blanket for what actually is going on with Juan Thornhill. I don't know why the coaching staff is so hesitant to make the change when it's so obvious. Everyone can see it. Juan Thornhill is the better option. He can actually cover. I think he's a better tackler than Dan Sorensen at this point, which really hurts me to say because Dan Sorensen has really actually statistically been one of the team's best tacklers in recent years, but I think he really is just declining in front of our eyes, and he shouldn't be out there for 90% of the snaps. He just shouldn't. That's inexcusable. Juan Thornhill needs to be in the game. I mean, we've kind of beaten this horse to death over the past couple weeks. You guys already know. Juan Thornhill, that change needs to be made. All right, now my second suggestion to shake up the defensive lineup on defense is putting DeAndre Baker in for Charvarius Ward. Obviously, we saw Baker a little bit in the Chargers game in place of Charvarius Ward since he was hurt. He did not play. And that's something that I had been calling for a little bit. I liked what we saw from Baker. In fact, I don't really blame that DPI call at the end on him. I thought he played that pretty well. Not really his fault. Not going to hold it against him. But he looked like a sound tackler, and I thought he looked pretty good in coverage as well. Also, a reason I like him over Ward is because he has much better ball skills. He has a lot of PBUs accumulated in his career already. He's always been someone that has good ball skills, and Charvarius Ward doesn't really have those. He may be in the right place a lot, but offensive players are always making the catch over him, and I've just never been a big fan of Charvarius Ward. I always thought he was a tad overrated by fans because he was a good story that made his way onto the field. But so far this year, he's allowing a 111.6 passer rating when targeted. In my opinion, he's a little too grabby with penalties and whatnot. I would like to see more DeAndre Baker instead of Ward. We've already seen from Ward this year, he gives up a lot of big plays. And DeAndre Baker is someone who was a former first-round pick. I believe he has a much higher ceiling than Charvarius Ward. I still think there's a place for Charvarius Ward on the field, though. Like, in that Chargers game, we saw a lot of DeAndre Baker, but we also saw a lot of Mike Hughes covering Mike Williams. That was a mismatch from the beginning. If you had Ward in that game, I would have liked to see Ward stuck on Mike Williams instead, since he's bigger and can press him a little bit at the line of scrimmage. I mean, Hughes had him turned around on one of his touchdowns, and Hughes, in my opinion, has been really 50-50. He either makes a play or gets completely burnt. Honestly, though, Charvarius Ward is a little bit of the same way, but I do think he's a better matchup for bigger, more physical receivers. That's somewhere where Mike Hughes is always going to be at a disadvantage, so that's kind of my point. But I digress. I think DeAndre Baker should be seeing more snaps from now on, now that Charvarius Ward is probably going to be healing up soon and getting back to being active. I don't think he should just be handed his spot back. I think he needs to fight with Baker to get his snaps back, because I liked what we saw from Baker, and I think he should start playing a lot more. All right, this third suggestion that I have is a little bit of like two suggestions in one. But I would like to see Bennieman taken off the field, whether that's by Dorian ODaniel. And you know what? Let's just start there. Dorian ODaniel. You know, people say that, you know, there's a reason Dorian ODaniel isn't playing. There's a reason Bennieman's on the field over him. Dorian ODaniel's never going to contribute. And you know what? They're probably right. But I still, to this day, refuse to believe that Dorian ODaniel is worse than Bennieman. I mean, at least Dorian ODaniel has the athleticism. Like, you can't tell me, like, year 3 under Steve Spagnuolo that Dorian ODaniel still doesn't know the playbook or doesn't have the defense down. Like, I remember last year, too. They put him in the Texans game, the first game of the year of 2020, and he got a sack in very limited time. Like, you can, I mean, send Dorian ODaniel on a blitz or put him in coverage. He's got to be better than Neiman. I mean, that was something that he was good at coming out of Clemson. So, I mean, he's kind of a hybrid safety linebacker. I refuse to believe that he's worse than Bennieman. I mean, how bad is Dorian ODaniel in practice or in training camp that they still give Bennieman a pass? I just don't understand. Especially when Dorian ODaniel, his rookie year, looked really good and showed to be a really good closer on his tackles. Because that's another thing Bennieman can't do very well, is tackle. But my other kind of second suggestion here, having to do with the linebackers, is bringing back Omari Cobb. I thought that dude looked really good in preseason. He's still out there. I understand the Chiefs have guys that they like at linebacker, but Omari Cobb would be the Chiefs' most athletic linebacker that's not named Willie Gay. And I really value athleticism in linebackers. And I really thought Omari Cobb looked good. So I would love to see him maybe brought back and given some snaps over Bennieman, because people say all the time, Bennieman knows where to be, Bennieman, you know, he's really smart, but what does it matter if you can't actually make the play and you don't have the physical ability to make the play? Because at least some of these other guys who have the athleticism can recover when they're maybe not in the right place exactly, if you understand what I'm saying. Bennieman, a lot of the time, has no shot, even if he does know where to be, because he just doesn't have the physical talent. So that's my third suggestion. That's one of the ones that I'm most intrigued by. I would love to hear from you guys on that one, though. All right, my fourth and final suggestion here, going with the youth movement. I would love to see Alex Okafor snaps greatly reduced and given to Joshua Kando. Because so far this year, Alex Okafor looks completely washed. I think it's clear that his best days are behind him. He was playing, I think, 70% of the Chiefs' defensive end snaps against the Chargers. At this point in his career, that can't be the case. Alex Okafor is a depth guy at best, and he's kind of becoming a starter at defensive end now with Frank Clark's health issues and just the overall lack of depth at defensive end. But it really is inexcusable. And the part that most frustrates me, and I brought up Melvin Ingram so many times and how the Chiefs should have signed him, but they both have the same base salary this year, and Alex Okafor was signed the day after Melvin Ingram came off the market. You had to have brought in Melvin Ingram. That was an L for the Chiefs. I mean, you really should have brought in Melvin Ingram. You had a chance, and I really feel like the Alex Okafor move was really just a desperation signing, and it's kind of embarrassing. But Joshua Kando, I get he's a project. You drafted him to sit behind some players and develop, but the reality is at this point that the Chiefs are not as deep as maybe we once thought on the defensive line. And Joshua Kando, the Chiefs don't have the luxury of making him sit behind a bunch of other players and developing. Like, honestly, Joshua Kando, he has more athletic upside than Alex Okafor. He just has more upside in general than Alex Okafor. It may look ugly. It may take some time for Joshua Kando to learn how to play defensive end in the NFL. But what do you have to lose, really? With how bad the defense has been, especially along the defensive line, I mean, what do you have to lose, really? Kando, I mean, again, he's going to get beat a few times. He's going to look lost a little bit. But you might as well give him some game reps now and see if he can develop and maybe become a more serviceable player than Alex Okafor. And really, that shouldn't be too hard to do. So, yeah, those are my 4 suggestions of different personnel decisions the Chiefs could make on their defense to maybe hopefully improve it. Because, like I said, kind of for that last suggestion is, what do you have to lose with a lot of these moves? With how bad the defense has been, why not just give it a try? And maybe you can see some improvement. And I think some of these, too, are just obvious personnel decisions that should have been made a long time ago. But I would love to hear from you guys as always, and if you agree or disagree with any of my suggestions, and if you have any of your own, I would love to hear from you guys. But all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this, and make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and kckingdom.com. See ya.